Mickey Thompson was not going to stay with GM, that GM got out of racing. He was going to go to Ford, and he was going to have his coupe for sale. Hey, this is Arnie, the farmer Beswick, coming from the Throttlestop at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Well, in 1960, Pontiac really wasn't into, or any GM cars to any degree, was not really, didn't have any real special parts to help make their cars go faster. But in 61, they started coming out with better camshafts, better valve springs, a few minor things. Same way with 62, they didn't quite have the motor they was hoping to have all parts for, but they did manage to build aluminum front ends. And then 1963, again, Pontiac was probably ahead of the game and made certain that they was going to have aluminum front ends available for the 63 cars with the Super Duty 421 motor. Well, about the time the orders got to Pontiac, all of a sudden GM was told by our friendly government that you have a monopoly on the auto industry. You have over 57% of the automotive market, and you will have to cut your sales down, or you will be asked to do away with one of your franchises. They decided, hey, we're not going to get rid of anything. We're going to just get out of racing. So in March of 1963, GM made the announcement, we are no longer in racing. We will not be supporting any race cars with any parts or pieces. Well, John, who was kind of the head guy at Pontiac at that time, said, how are we going to live with this bullshit? So he knew he couldn't get by with making any more cars with aluminum front ends, so there was very few cars that got made. 63 Mans Coupe, a 63 wagon, and a 63 Catalina. All were going to be an option that you could buy from Pontiac prior to the government coming out with this ruling and GM getting out of racing. So what few of us got our cars ordered early did get a car. Anyway, I did get a wagon, and I got a Catalina, which is what I started racing. Then, of course, some of the cars that people had gotten, one of them was Mickey Thompson.
A Mickey Thompson Tempest, driven by Lloyd Cox, races in the A Factory experimental class to win over Dick Jesse from Royal Pontiac.
He had managed to get a coupe, a Pontiac 63 Mans Coupe in 1963. I didn't even manage to get a coupe. I got the wagon. I would have rather had the coupe. Well, when I heard that Mickey Thompson was not going to stay with GM, that GM got out of racing, he was going to go to Ford, and he was going to have his coupe for sale. Well, somehow, some way, I managed to make contact through some friends of mine at Pontiac who told me about it. They contacted Mickey Thompson and said Arnie Beswick would be very interested in buying your coupe. He says, what the hell does he want that for? GM ain't in racing no more. And he said, well, he's interested in buying it. I made a deal with Mickey. He finally called me and told me what he'd have to have for it. And I don't know if he ever paid a dime for the damn thing from Pontiac, but I'll never know that, I guess. I didn't know anybody at Pontiac that knew the answer to that question neither. So I ended up buying the car from him, having it shipped back to where I live from Mickey's shop in California. And unfortunately, he had just abused the damn car so bad, test runs and what have you. And I think I don't even know if he ever had a chance to even run it in actual NHRA competition. I know the Winter Nationals would have been one place.
The second half of the 1963 Winter Nationals is the championship drag races, a 3-day meet held at the Pomona Valley Timing Association drag strip on the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds.
But I think something broke on the car, and he didn't even make it into the final rounds of competition of NHRA Winter National. Anyway, when I got the car, yes, it did pull itself, but when you started the motor, you never seen smoke so bad come out of a motor, you'd swear there was no piston rings in the son of a gun. So I knew there was no way I could run that car and make it competitive with the condition of that motor. So rather than even try to run it, the first thing I did was try to get pistons and new rods and all the bearings and stuff for it. So I did not get a chance to run that car until I probably got it sometime in May, and I don't think I ever got a chance to run the car until probably June or July, late June, July. Once I did get a chance to run it, it was a kick-ass car, and it was pretty hard to beat. I beat the hell out of them and never really had any serious breakage problem with them, and won just a ton of races in late 63 and all through 63. I was very, very lucky and won a lot of races, with both cars. And continued because the only car that was really competitive in 64 was the Ford Thunderbolt. And they was coming out of your ears everywhere you went in the racing world. The Thunderbolts were just sick. Like I told you at Daytona when they first showed up with them down there, I bet there was 50 Thunderbolts that showed up. If there wasn't 50, there was close to it. I don't know the exact number, but I know there was lots and lots and lots of Thunderbolts there. Unfortunately, some of them that owned them, didn't know shit about setting them up to be competitive. And some of them had mechanical problems and shit like that. But anybody that really knew how to set up a drag race car didn't have that problem, usually. And they were badass. Luckily, my little coupe was badasser, and I managed to win them. I beat them. So I was very, very, very fortunate for several years in the 60s because my equipment stayed together. It was very, very competitive with the best stuff out there. And no matter who I ended up racing for the finals, if there's records out there that would tell you that I won the majority of the races I got involved in throughout the year. Yeah, 63, 64, even up into 65. Those cars were, because Mopar come out with those damn altered wheelbase pieces of shit, and they were just they were junk for the several months before they got enough beefed up pieces to hold the thing together to get down the track. From the engine to the frame to the rear end. They didn't have a decent transmission back then. So it wasn't hard to beat some of those badass factory cars that I had to run against. Those were heydays for the farmer. I will say that. Heydays, big time, big time.